Two violent attacks that took place on the same day this week are raising concerns about counterterrorism amid the war in Iran. First, a gunman opened fire in an ROTC classroom on Thursday at Old Dominion University in Virginia, killing one person and injuring two others. The shooter had been identified as a U.S. citizen who pleaded guilty in 2016 to attempting to aid the terror group ISIS. Then, less than 2 hours later in Michigan, an armed man drove a car into the nation's largest Reform synagogue, Temple Israel in West Bloomfield Township, setting it ablaze. The suspect, who died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, was a naturalized citizen from Lebanon, according to the Department of Homeland Security. The attacks come as the DOJ is losing experienced counterterrorism officials. Since the start of Trump's second term, about 300 FBI agents who worked mostly on national security matters have left the Bureau, including 45 who were fired. Joining us now is Michael Feinberg, MS Now national security and intelligence analyst and former FBI assistant special agent in charge. Michael, thanks for joining us this morning. Do you think that the FBI in its current iteration is capable of defending the U.S. homeland while we're in war and being able to identify threats that we saw this week?
It's capable in terms of having the resources and the personnel to do what needs to be done to keep our country and our communities safe.
Even with the diminished personnel?
Even with the diminished personnel. But it requires the leadership of the organization to stand up to the White House and say that we can't have a quarter to a third of our investigative workforce every day focusing solely on immigration operations. The FBI hasn't had an increase in personnel or resources in quite some time. And simultaneous with that, you have the White House, largely through Stephen Miller, dictating that the organization needs to prioritize immigration, which it's never done before in history. So if you take an organization that is not getting more resources, add a huge new task to its plate, by definition, other things are going to fall through the cracks.
One of the things that everyone is concerned about with the war anywhere is what's going to happen here on the homeland. What's the possibility of that happening? I want to play something from President Trump on Wednesday when he was asked about possible sleeper cells in the United States.
Have you been briefed about how many Iran sleeper cells there could be inside the U.S. right now?
I have been, and a lot of people came in through Biden with this stupid open border. But we know where most of them are. We've got our eye on all of them, I think.
I think if we have our eye on them, then it feels like we could go get them and make them not sleeper cells. So I guess one is a reason why if the president knew where sleeper cells were in this country, we wouldn't go and make them not sleeper cells. And two, when you hear that, do you feel like the American people should be concerned based on the leadership of the FBI and the intelligence apparatus that we currently have?
Yeah, the American people should absolutely be concerned about what I would term as the deterioration of our national security apparatus. The intelligence community, instead of being focused on external threats and domestic vulnerabilities, is instead doing things like pursuing election conspiracies that have no basis in fact. They're focusing on cartels and immigration, which you can make an argument that both of those things in some form or fashion threaten national security, but they're not blowing up buildings. They're not driving into synagogues. They're not shooting up colleges. So the American people need to demand of their president and his appointees that resources be expended on real national security threats, not just the ones that help the president politically. This is insane that we are focusing FBI agents, CIA officers, NSA resources on illegal immigration, cartels.
What are the agents telling you, your old colleagues?
They're very frustrated. You have people who joined in order to stop terrorist groups, to crack down on real violent crime at an enterprise level, not arresting individuals off the street one by one. You have individuals who are concerned about state-sponsored spies stealing American secrets. And they now spend a good portion of their days doing perimeter security for ICE raids. This is insane.
Speaking of deterioration and resources being expended in places where they shouldn't be, this is from Variety. UFC fighters to train FBI agents in historic seminar this week. In a statement, FBI Director Kash Patel called the seminar a, quote, tremendous opportunity for our FBI agents to learn and train with some of the greatest athletes on earth, helping the world's premier law enforcement agency be even better prepared to protect the American people. This is crazy. Michael, to my mind, FBI agents are among the best trained, highly qualified people to do the jobs that they do. UFC fighters? Why shouldn't I think that those jokers are no shade, but they're entertainment. They're not about law enforcement.
And is the FBI beating up people? Like, what training would they need in their jobs? Like, I just feel like this is not the training they.
So we actually, or they now, get extensive training in hand-to-hand combat and defensive tactics. But it's not for the purposes of entertainment. It's not to look cool. It's not to be tough. The point is to safely take a suspect into custody when it's time to arrest him or her. And that's what all the training is geared for. If you're in a ground fight, you've already lost. And we're trained in how to handle those situations. But the goal is not to get somebody to tap out. It's not to use a chokehold. It's not to beat them into submission. It's to momentarily incapacitate them, create enough distance between yourself and the subject, draw your weapon if needed, and arrest them. You don't want to get into a prolonged fight. This is insane.
You know who actually maybe needs more of that training?
Oh, Lord.
ICE agents.
Well.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be
excellent point, Jackie. I mean, it's so true. As Michael nods in agreement. Michael Feinberg, as always, thank you very much for coming to the weekend.